Hello, thank you for joining us here at Earth and Sky and all of you joining us online. We really appreciate you spending your Sunday mornings with us. We've been doing this for about 3 years now and time just goes so fast. It's amazing.
Has it been that long?
It has, just about. And so today we wanted to talk about something we haven't really touched on much, which is what do you do if your children are gifted? I get this question on occasion, and quite often when people come to talk to me, it's that the parents can be pretty frightened sometimes about the gifts that their children are showing, or
Because they're really good at piano?
they're psychic gifts, they're intuitive gifts. I should specify that. Yes.
Of course, I should have known that.
And all parents generally want the best for their children.
You
That's
hope
one
so.
of the things that kind of unites people around the world. There's always, good and bad with people,
Right,
but
of course.
as a general, most people want the best for their children. They're an extension of themselves, and they
Of course.
hope that they can, be
Makes-
happy in the world.
It's supposed to make them immortal.
Right, exactly. That legacy you leave behind. But anyway, so what do you do if your children are gifted? If they have psychic or intuitive abilities and it's not a realm that you've explored and maybe you're not familiar with it at all and you're not sure what to do, what to say, how to help your children,
Yeah.
what do you do? So I have 10 different 10 different tips we're going to talk about today.
10 tips for gifted children.
10 talking point tips.
Such a rhymer. You should have been a rapper. That's your gift.
And so how, first of all, you need to know how to know if they're psychically gifted.
That would help, yes. Because a lot of children are not.
And a lot of children are, too.
And there are probably a lot more than we know.
Most people have some type of intuitive ability. It might be just very, very minute. It might be very small when something really is big in your life and you just have that sense about things. And then it goes on this big scale. So I know for myself, my first psychic dreams were when I was 2 years old. And I don't remember them, but my mother tells me when I was 2 that I had woken up, or I was screaming in the middle of the night, her friend Mary's name. And so she talked to her friend in the morning, found out she had hemorrhaged about the same time I was screaming in my sleep, and she was in the hospital. 6 months later, I started screaming my Aunt Dixie's name, so my mother promptly called her sister to find out if she was okay, even though it was the middle of the night. She was also hemorrhaging, and she was able to take her to the hospital, thankfully. And it just kind of continued like that for me. So that could, if somebody doesn't know what to do with it, that could be pretty scary. Both of those events that I mentioned
They're
were
correlated
high
to
emotional events.
They're correlated to not great things.
Exactly. And quite often as the intuitive gifts appear, sometimes it is those things where action needs to be taken. Something needs to be done. Something should be fixed. And so that can put a skew on your perspective if you're not understanding what's really going on.
Because every time every time that something comes up, it's a negative thing.
Right.
I mean, not that the gift is directly negative, but that could be the perception.
Exactly, and there were several other things that happened during my childhood that I perceived as being quite scary because I didn't understand what energy was. I didn't know what was going on. There were things like scratches on the posters in my bedroom at the top by the ceiling, places we couldn't reach. A lot of really interesting, very unnerving and unsettling things, and I'm not going to go into all of that right now because that's a whole other life talk, but I learned that a lot of that came from fear too. A lot of that was my own fear, my own concern about it. So to help kind of prevent that, or if you've got that going on, these 10 tips are going to help you know how to work with your child to get them comfortable with it.
I would think
and
that
yourself.
You need to watch Frozen and learn what being afraid of your gifts can do.
That's a good point. When you have love at the base of it, when you trust, when you're okay, when you find your emotional stability, your balance, your acceptance, those are the keys to really being able to channel it into good, healthy waves and maintaining your sanity and your joy with the process. It's actually a good point. Kind of funny, but actually truly a good point. And so one of the things that you might notice with children that are gifted is they're probably pretty empathic. And with empathic, we mean they feel the emotions of other people. Sometimes they emote those emotions as their own.
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah, you're one of the most empathic people I know. Much more so even than myself.
I don't know about that, but but I have my moments.
And empathic children and adults are able to read the emotions of other people. They're able to sense, they know when somebody's hurting, they know when somebody's upset, they can feel when somebody is joyful.
Yeah.
And as a child, they might not know what that means or even recognize that they're doing it.
Well, yeah, sometimes you don't recognize that it comes from outside of you.
Exactly.
Which is a very interesting thing.
And as children, we always feel like the whole world is exactly what our world looks like to us, and it feels like everything is a normal like that.
Yeah, our world is the only world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if your child is empathic, one of the things that you might need to watch out for with them is to notice if they're playing with, they might not recognize that when they're playing with certain children that they are very frustrated at the end of it, and they're just feeling anxious and upset, and when they're playing with other children they might feel really happy and energetic and good. And so it's helping them to recognize that what they're feeling might be that they're pulling that off of the other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And learning to tune in and recognize what their own emotions are regardless of who's around them can be a good thing. A lot of that can come from talking to them, listening to them, asking them questions. Why are you feeling this way? Why are you acting this way? What's causing you to have this emotion? What's causing you to act up?
No, I think in that, so like as I'm listening, you go through it. That's, I think, one of the biggest issues I think that people come up with, and not just with gifted children, but with all children. One of the hardest things to do is to take those time and actually sit back. I think it seems like parents get so tired of, because they're always watching their kids to make sure they're safe, or are they doing something they're not supposed to be doing, and are they beating up their brother or sister, things like, what I mean, they're always watching them, their actions, that taking a moment whenever you can and actually stepping back and just watching your child trying to understand where they're at, I think is a really big deal. And I think that's something that most parents, I think, have a tendency to really let that fall. That's like that falls so far down on the list of things that they want to take the time to do, that you just don't get it. You just, no matter what's going on with the child, unless they are screaming, if they're screaming, you pay attention. If they're quiet, you're busy doing the other stuff that you don't get to do because they seem to be screaming so much. It's one of those things. And I get that that's absolutely an issue, but taking that time, taking just when there's a moment where they're playing, you might have a moment to do your life, but taking half of that moment and just watching them and trying to understand where they're at in their head, where they're at in their emotions, where they're at in their life, and just trying to get a feel for them, I think is really, that's something that would not only help with gifted children, but
absolutely
to understand your child as a whole.
Absolutely.
And I think, but I think it's even way more important with someone that could possibly be a gifted child.
Right. Children tend to be sponges, whether they're gifted or not, and they
Right.
really pick up on what's going around them. They're learning about the world, they're learning how to act, how to interact with everything, and so as little sponges, that is so vitally important. And children, especially gifted children, but again, all children, really can be affected a lot by the environment. They can be overstimulated, especially when they're sensitive, because even walking into a place, even if it's not the other people that are there, but they might be picking up on past situations, heightened emotional situations that have occurred in an area, and that environment can be overstimulating. They can also be very easily overstimulated by things like loud music, barking dogs, a lot of chaos, a lot of people talking. We see this sometimes in those that are on the Asperger spectrum, where they get very hypersensitive and overwhelmed quite quickly by a lot of outdoor stimuli. And
to the other end of that, if you give your child, if there's too much stimulus all the time, they become
numb,
callous to it. And so if you're too callous to the world, then you don't get a sense of actually what's going on around you. If you're callous to loud noises, if you're callous to people talking, if you're callous to all of the things that when you are late, as you grow and you're later in life, those things are really important to not only excel, but to be good as, like the head of a family, or, a mother or a father, or, all of the things that go with later in life. Being too callous to the world can actually be very detrimental no matter the situation.
that's very true, exactly. And I think that, it's good to watch and find balance between both of those.
Absolutely.
I think that a lot of kids that are on the Asperger's spectrum really do have a lot of gifts. They're very in tune. They pay attention so much to
Yeah.
what's going around them, which is a big part of what leads them to that overstimulation and just trying to block the world out, push it all away, which is again something that a lot of gifted children will do. They'll lock down their gifts. They'll push it away because they're not sure about it. They're afraid of it. And so they just want to drown out that intuition.
Yep.
And which again is not really a good thing. Teaching your children, if they do get overstimulated like that, or if you notice they're very empathic around others, teaching them how to meditate, how to be mindful, how to pull back from the outer world, even if the outer world is right in front of them, how to pull back and find their calm space within is really good. I love that some of the schools now are teaching mindfulness. It's so
I know, right?
important.
Yeah, absolutely.
But teaching that meditation is a really good thing, teaching the mindfulness, and then also teaching them how to ground and shield, how to just get down in nature. You can keep it very, very simple. If you're not a parent that is into anything mystical or magical or anything like that, you can keep all of these tips very simple too. So to help your child ground, just take them outside. Take their shoes off, let their feet touch the earth, have them get down and put their hands in the dirt too. It very naturally is going to help ground them, bring them back to nature, bring them back. You've heard the phrase, come back down to earth. That's grounding. That means you're just clearing out, releasing, coming back into the simplicity of being in harmony with Mother Nature.
Well, and I didn't even know what quiet was from an emotional stance until I learned from you the mirror protection thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea, and that's one of the most amazing sensations in the world. The first time I learned how to do that, where like literally the whole world just was quiet just for a minute, and I was just like, oh my God. I didn't even know that there was noise there until it was gone, and it was kind of crazy. So
do you want to tell briefly how to give an example of how to do that?
Oh, well,
we do have a video, on grounding and shielding. You can watch that whole video. There's a lot to it, but if you just want to mention
I'll put it in the comments down below, so if you go to the comments, there'll be one specifically on the grounding and shielding one. But yeah, well, like so basically what I do is I just close my eyes, and in front of me I see a reflection of myself, and that's the mirror. And so then I take that mirror and I turn it around, and now I'm staring at the black backside, which means the reflection side is out, and I just grow the mirror all the way around me, and then I push the bottom all the way down below my feet, and then I take the top and go up above me, so now I'm kind of in an egg, and then I pull it towards me until it basically wraps all through my body, and it's right on the edge of my body, every curve, and then as I take a deep breath, I push it out, and then when you do that, and then you open your eyes, and it is the nicest, quietest moment that every time I do it, it's very cool. So anyway, so that's...
Yeah, so teaching your children that, if you as an adult are empathic, this is a great technique to help you to deal with all the life is throwing at you all the time, all the noise. We have more and more in society all the time, especially with
noise,
busier lives, with advertising that gets thrown at us from every direction. The increasing population adds to the noise level, and so it's hard to get that quiet. So that would be a really good step. And then one of the other things, number 2, for this, I know we might break this into 2 parts. We'll see how we are with time if we make this a 2-part episode.
This might be the first 5 of 10. So.
So number 2 relates to past life memories. Sometimes children, because when you're a child, you're so close to the other side because you just came from the other side. And so when they're born, sometimes they'll retain some of those memories from the past. I've heard of several different cases where people just maybe think their children are being imaginative, and so they squash it away. They say, oh, no, that didn't happen.
That didn't happen.
So for an example, if your child is saying, oh, Mom, I remember going to England with Vicky, and it was just so amazing. I loved having tea there. They might remember a lot. They might remember, I just remember going to England. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember being there. Then instead of telling them, oh, no, you've never done that, that never happened, instead listen to them. Talk to them about what they remember, and you don't have to say this did happen or this didn't happen, but just listen to them. Let them express themselves, and don't discount what they're saying to you.
Yeah, because it's something as simple. I remember when I was really young, and I swore I loved eggs. Eggs was one of my favorite dishes ever. Oh my God, I ate it all the time. And then I remember telling my mother that, and she went, "Really? You love eggs?" And I said, "I love eggs." I said, "I eat them all the time." And I had memories of eating them all the time. Then she made me them. They were horrible. I was like, "What is this?" She said, "Those are eggs." I went, "No, these aren't the eggs I remember. I remember loving eggs." And I very much did not like eggs.
So
Isn't that
interesting.
interesting? Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that till right this second.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had another friend of mine who told me that, and he wasn't sure if he believed in past lives or not, but he said just a really weird thing is he remembers that as a kid, remembering that his thumb had been, his right thumb specifically, had been blown off in the war, and he would sometimes look at it going, "I remember this thumb was blown off in the war."
But it's here.
But it's here. And he had no idea where that came from or why he thought that, but that was a clear memory.
Interesting.
Another example, there was a friend of ours who has a young child that she cares for, and when we had buried a kitty outside, we were talking, she had already believed in past lives and had remembered some things, but when we buried the kitty, we were talking about the cat coming back in the future, and she continuously was asking about when that cat was coming back. And so I think it's a long, long time in between our lives. I think there's a very long time. I think for people it seems to be at least 300 to 500 years in between lives from what I've seen. Who knows? But from what I've seen, as a general. Yeah,
okay.
because we have a lot that we process and
Yeah.
do on the other side. But
Yeah, interesting.
but so if you have a child that's starting to talk about things that they remember, just listen to them.
Yeah.
Don't discount it. Don't tell
No.
them it didn't happen. Just listen.
Don't squash it. Just let them. I mean,
Let them express themselves.
even if they're making it up, there's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with some imagination
Exactly.
too. And then the third thing is about dreams. So if you have a child that is having dreams that seem to come true, and they talk about an event as if it's already happened, or an event that's going to happen, it might be something good, it might be something bad. Again, a lot of times intuition can be triggered by really strong emotional events or really important things that are going to be happening, which can sometimes seem like a negative. People don't as often dream about being at their sister's graduation a year before it happens. You know, it's more things that have a relevance to the way we'll feel in life in a big way.
Okay.
And so don't be intimidated by those dreams. Don't stress about the dreams. If your child says things, and quite frequently they happen, and then they say some things that might sound a little scary, don't freak out about it. Don't stress about it. Just listen to them. It's not like your child is the one impacting the event
Right.
or causing it to
Right.
happen. And if you have a really strong emotional reaction, they might internalize it and feel like you're blaming them for it.
Right.
Or they might be afraid that whenever they go to sleep, that they
Something
might
bad might
cause
happen.
something bad to happen. And that's really a lot of a burden for a child to
Absolutely.
carry when that's not actually what's going on. They're just sensing what's coming up in the future. They have a strong link. A lot of children have a strong link,
Yeah.
so much more than others. But so just listen, and then also ask questions. If they're having dreams that seem to be coming true, ask questions about it too. Ask them, well, what did you see? Don't lead them with specific things, but just ask them to get them to pay attention to the details more. Well, what did you see? What did it look like? How did it make you feel? Did you see color in your dream? If they talk about having a book in the dream, ask them, could you read the book? Could you see the letters in the book? Just ask a lot of detailed questions, and then that's going to help increase their ability to pay attention as they continue dreaming. It'll help them to increase their ability to see more with their gifts, so they can get more than just the little basics that might be starting. It'll help them to really learn how to have that control of the dream, how to go deeper and deeper with bringing information back.
Now, would you say that people, if they say they don't have any clue what to do with this, if like when you were young, what would you have ideally, like if your parents were not of the sort where they were going to be able to really help or engage you very much, what would you think what would be the next best thing?
Just listening loving them, letting them know that it's okay, watching that your reaction is not one of fear is a big thing, and just knowing that, letting them know that they are normal, there's nothing wrong with them. Sometimes gifted children will feel like they are overwhelmed and they're maybe not normal, and they might withdraw, they might go into depression, they might not understand and not feel like there's anybody they can talk about because they feel like it's weird or scary or uncomfortable. They might feel like they can't talk to other friends or other adults about it because they don't want to be looked at weird. And all it takes is one negative encounter with a person for them to shut that down and withdraw. And it's not necessarily going to turn the gifts off right away, so then they withdraw more, they get kind of depressed. And so instead, just asking questions and letting them know that they're loved, letting them know that they're safe. And then
that even if they're different than other kids, that their normal is still fine and normal.
Exactly.
I mean, it's their normal, because everybody has their own level of normal, whether it's obvious or not.
Exactly.
There is no flat line normal, and that's what people seem to forget, but yeah, okay.
That's exactly right. And just talking to them, asking them if there's something that you can help them with too. Kids are pretty smart.
Yeah.
And so if you ask them, even if they can't put words to it right away, tell them that you're there for them and ask them, is there anything I can do to help? Or,
Right.
I'm here if you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And let them know that finding ways to express themselves is a really big thing, so they're not internalizing all of it.
Now, what was that, 4?
That was 3. We're going to do 4, and then we're gonna take a break and come back for part 2.
Let's do 4 and 5.
Because I'd like to start with that with the next one.
Oh, see how you are?
So one of the other things that you can do that can show that your kids are gifted is imaginary friends. A lot of kids might have imaginary friends.
I had imaginary friends.
And a lot of kids do. You were very empathic too.
Yeah, that's it. That was it.
And look at you now. And
You're
so,
right. Yeah, right.
so imaginary friends seriously can be a really big deal because they might be spirit guides. If you're not into magic, you might not be familiar with the term spirit guide.
So they could be real.
They could be real. You never know. Spirit animals, spirit guides often are something that children will see. When children are gifted, they're usually here because they have a specific mission in this life. They're here to accomplish something, to do something, to be here in a certain way. And so they might be able to see their spirit guides or their spirit animals from a very early age. A lot of children have been able to report stories about seeing Jesus, or they'll feel like they have conversations with Jesus, who is one of the ascended masters that we talk about a lot in the American culture. In other cultures, it might be that they see more about Buddha, and because that's the one that's talked about. And so it would be appropriate for Buddha to reveal himself to the children. And sometimes it's just a guide or an angel or some type of a spirit animal often can be what will come through. A lot of times kids are very in tune with animals.
Yeah.
And so, but if they're talking about having an imaginary friend, don't discount that. Again, encourage their imagination. Imagination in children, in all children, is actually a really sign of being gifted in a normal muggle sense too.
Normal. And she goes and uses that normal.
A muggle sense.
Muggle sense.
And so, but encouraging that imagination.
It's non-magical for anybody who hasn't seen Harry Potter.
We'll have them to increase that to be able to continue, because whether it is truly a spirit guide or an angel or an ascended master or a spirit animal, or if it's just their imagination, regardless of which it is, that gives them a creative outlet of somebody to express themselves, to talk to make them feel safe.
Let them do that.
Exactly. Allow them to do that. Don't discourage it. Don't feel like just because they're getting to a certain age, they need to stop talking about it. It can be embarrassing to mom and dad.
Yeah, right.
Don't do that.
Don't
Just
do that.
let them be them. Let them express themselves in those ways. And with that, we are actually going to close out today's video, but we will be doing part 2 next week. And I hope you enjoy this. I hope you'll come back and listen to the next 6 tips that we have.
4, 8, another 4 or so.
The next 6 tips that we have on these 10 tips.
You really are ruining my symmetry. I very much like symmetry, and you love to smash
It's the
that.
magical side of me. I have to jump around.
Just to smash my symmetry.
And so, thank you so much for joining us here at Earth and Sky. Please hit the like button, subscribe to us on YouTube. We
Always
value
subscribe.
each and every one of you so much. Until next week.